Shalom, shalom wa ahaba, mishpaka, shalom wa ahaba. Peace and love, family, peace and love. Family, when are we gonna boycott hip hop? You know what I'm saying? I'm in my former college town, you know what I'm saying? I met my wife while I was in college, and her family's actually from the town that I went to college in. So whenever her family throws events, it gives me, a 2-for-1 deal. I'm able to come out here and spend time, with her family. And I'm also able to come back to, the town that where I grew to be a man, the town that made me a man, and the town that, taught me about, the life that I would live after, I graduated from college. But I'm sitting here, man, just, meditating on things before I get up out of here. And when are we going to boycott hip hop? You know what I'm saying? I'm always seeing, things going on where our people want to, boycott Target for this racial issue. We boycotting Asian businesses because, Rick Child got away with deleting a young black child, you know what I'm saying? But the culture that led that child into that situation, you know what I mean? The music and the movies and the media and the culture that has been given to us since the 90s, you know what I mean? That has led us into pure dysfunction, of whom I was a victim of myself. When I look at all of the foolish behavior that I exhibited before, I came into the understanding of who I am, who my people are, why we are where we are, and where we are intended to be, and had to go through something tragic, like a vehicle, accident, riding a vehicle with no doors, a motorcycle accident, and use 75% usage of my right arm to realize, what has always been in front of me, and that the culture that we have accepted is the root cause of much of our issues. It's not nothing coming from outside of the community. You understand? We blame the music that is fueled to our youth on the people that control the music industry, but we're the ones that provide the product. You see what I'm saying? It's not their fault when they say, oh no, we not promoting nothing righteous or uplifting to your people. You know what I'm saying? It ain't their fault. It's our fault for allowing them to do that to the music, and not finding our own ways and avenues to maybe do something that is more productive for our people. But we don't, you know what I'm saying? And when you realize that, when you see our grown people out there, jamming to music like this new song by Young Miami, when she come out and she said, where all my boosting bitches at? Where my scamming? What is that? You see what I'm saying? And how can you blame the children when you got grown people out there rocking to that nonsense? You know what I mean? So it's like, how can somebody be offended when they tell you, don't come talking to me about boycotting nothing until you gonna boycott hip hop music? You know what I'm saying? That right there is the root cause. You see what I'm saying? When people talk about the culture, what culture are they speaking of? They speaking of hip hop, man. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy to me that we go out here and point our fingers at everything and everybody. You know what I mean? When 90 some odd percent of the victims of so-called black crime are black people, But we go at the 2% of people who come from outside of our culture or race that kill one of us, and we jump all over that. But the 98% of the murders that are done by Pookie, Ray Ray, Mook Mook, Lil Donnie, T-Mo, you know what I'm saying? Lil Crook, and all these other ignorant people out here that are raised by these degenerate individuals, we go silence on that. You know what I'm saying? People get shot up at a Juneteenth festival by some young Negroes, and ain't nobody got nothing to say nothing. And I always remember, I always think about how women in my generation say, Negroes ain't hitting on 5 cents, but not my son. You know what I'm saying? It is mind-boggling to me. And it makes me say to those of us who are aware of what is going on, it's time for decent, civilized black folks to get up out them cities, man. You know what I mean? I live in a urban metropolitan area, and I lie to you not, if my career was not tied to that area, I would be going. I'd rather live in the bushes, man. I'd rather live in the bushes. You know what I'm saying? Because I come from a community that is so distracted and so dysfunctional and so misled by individuals who are completely I'll say loyal and under mind control of leaders who have sold themselves out to entities like the Democratic Party that makes individuals rich while the rest of the community suffers. You see what I'm saying? You know, 27 out of the 30 most crime-ridden cities are ran by so-called Democrats. And most of those cities have large so-called black populations. And in many of those situations, the people in charge are also black people. But yet we are stuck on blaming and pointing the fingers outside of our community. And I'm not saying that there are things that aren't coming from outside of the community. But those things will have much less of an effect if we did what we were supposed to do inside of our community. One of which would be banning hip-hop music and culture that influences our people to go out here and be dysfunctional. You see what I'm saying? What is the soundtrack to what the so-called YNs are out here doing? When they out here hitting them switches and shooting up their people and killing each other, you know what I mean? When the leading cause of death of black males between the age of 15 and 40 is homicide. And 90-some-odd% of those homicides are done by other black men. Look at the numbers, man. Look at the facts. Look at the statistics. And it does not support the narrative that we need to be out here focusing on things outside of our community. We could make things a whole lot better for ourselves if we just focus on ourselves. You see what I'm saying? And stop going after these superficial issues and start really addressing the problem. And the problem is hip-hop culture. You understand that? People may say, yo, why you don't listen to rap no more? I tell them I grew up. Some things have a time limit on it. You understand? And some things have an age limit on it. You know what I mean? And I'm a grown-ass man with daughters and children and the head of household. And I ain't got time to be out here listening to kitty bop music that's telling me to go out here and destroy myself. So until we start talking about boycotting the real issue, which is the culture that was created by entities within the society that want to keep us as a permanent servant class and keep us deaf, dumb, demonized, demoralized, dysfunctional, and voting Democrat, don't come talking to me about boycotting nothing. And with that, Mr. Picard, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And always remember to keep the fire burning. A little more oil in my lungs. Hallelujah. Mr. Picard, keep your eyes open. Stay prepared so that you don't have to get prepared. And remember that your redemption is near. Until we meet again, Mr. Picard, Kuma Yisrael, Kam Yasha'al, Rise Yisrael, Shalom, Shalom, Salam, Mr. Picard. Hallelujah.